I'm not satisfied though with what I've heard in the discussion about the filming on our public lands. And I'm trying to understand whether or not we've got consistent application, because I think that's some of the frustration, is that you perhaps have differing interpretations of what commercial might be, or just what the understanding and directive is. I was listening, I believe it was you, Ms. Weldon, when the question was asked from Senator Cantwell here about filming on our wilderness lands, and I think you also pointed out, Mr. Ellis, that access to the wilderness and to the wilderness study areas for purposes of some form of commercial filming, and making sure that we don't have impact or negative impact on the wilderness values. I think you used the term, Ms. Weldon, that it's promoting the value of wilderness. And I just, because we have so much wilderness in Alaska, we have more than all the other states combined. They're big spaces. And when I think about the value of wilderness, and I think about how difficult it is to access some of that wilderness, and I know that some of my colleagues have had the benefit of being able to do that, but I also recognize that some of my colleagues, like Senator Heinrich, are very fit, able to climb mountains and hike back to places that other people will never be able to have access to. So the ability to be able to see it, because we have had those who are able to provide that access through the visual, is so important to us. So I understand the concern here about making sure that we don't have impact on these wilderness values, but we have to be able to see them. And so making sure that that is allowed has got to be a priority as well. I need to understand what is coming out here from Forest Service in terms of the directive. When we had Chief Tidwell before the committee last week or the week before, he indicated that it was coming out shortly. And what I was trying to get from him at that time was, can you give us some indication as to what will be allowed, particularly as it relates to individual and small independent film operators? As you know, in our measure, we're seeking to effectively have a de minimis number of folks that would not be required to have these permits, to pay these fees. So I'm looking for some guidance from you all as to where you're going to be taking it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks very much for that question. Overall, we've finished with our public engagement and scoping on this directive. We received close to 5,000 comments, and based on the concerns that were raised last mid-autumn, we also added in a number of public engagement sessions where we were able to speak with the people who had these direct concerns about what's the best way for us to put together a directive that is well understood, is interpreted in such a way that folks would know what they would be required to do if they were involved with commercial filming. So as it relates to the small operator, in the bill, there's a proposal that for 5 and under, there would be a flat fee of $200, and then also that there would be requirements for checking in 48 hours ahead of time, and then let the groups go and do their thing. We agree that we can make this very efficient, but want to make sure that, as we're understanding the activities that a group of 5 or smaller might be doing, that they are doing those in line in such a way that ensures resource protection. Our experiences when we work with folks looking for this activity, they cooperate with us extremely well, but we want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up to have a group go out once they've paid that fee where we can't fully assess for the impacts. That's what we want to do.
Well, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid they're going to do?
Well, for example, if an entity goes out a crew of 5, they could come with substantial other props and gear to locations that may not be the best place to have that occur. So we want to at least be able to put them in the best position to be successful. And the 48-hour notice piece, if a group comes down on a Friday, may not give us the ability, by the time they get there to say, wow, if we knew you were going there, we would have asked you to go here for the same thing, but reduce the impact to this resource or to this other activity going on. So what we're looking for is just the ability to...
But then you're basically prescribing where you're going to go in that area to film. If again, what you're trying to show people through the eyes of the lens is an area, but you say, well, we only want you to film this. That's all we're going to be able to see is what you're telling us to film. So
I don't think our intent is to say, oh, look this way, don't look that way. It's just to make sure we're not creating a conflict, if we can avoid it. So we think there are vast opportunities for folks.
It sounds like you're making a lot of work for yourselves.
Well, if we want it to be something that we ensure we can continue doing by not having entities that we don't know where they're at cause a level of impact or damage that.
But if you've got 3 or 4 individuals that are basically, packing their gear on their back,
and that would be an instance where we would say, go do your thing. We would be more concerned if a group were to go and they had different types of gear and equipment and went and caused an impact that we could have prevented if we knew about it. So we're not trying to add more process in, but just want to make sure we, along with whomever's looking for that experience, can see, what it means for us to take care of that resource while we're out there.
Well, I would like you to look very critically at what we're proposing because I think it's imminently reasonable when you have 5 or less, and again, limitations in terms of what it is that they are bringing in. Again, if you're from an agency perspective going to say, we only want you to see this over here, and we don't want you to allow access. And again, it's not like you have a big Hollywood film crew.
Correct.
What you have are those who are committed to the resource, who have a passion for the land, who want to share it through the lens of a camera with others who will never be able to experience that. I don't want our agencies to be viewed as that choke point and limit access that way. Let me go to my colleague for his final questions.